Chicago, so don't talk to me about bullshit. Niggas in the motherfucking game wanna talk about the swag and the ice and the whips they drive. But a nigga like me getting bread, showing love, so the niggas don't respect my grind. It's going down, chasing the crown. About to be one of the illest around, like Justin Rihanna and Kanye. Nigga, I'm running the town. Slow it down, my vocals tight, so you can cut the. If you a dog, I'm Michael V. I take a nigga girl, I don't play fair. I take him to the bedroom, and they stay there. Wanna be the climb, give me mine. Running out of time, money on the line, gotta shine. Give it a look out when I try, won't stop. Vision in my mind, rockstar on top. Wait a minute, when a nigga really get it, I'ma go off. I gotta prove it to him. I think I'm MJ, moving.
I'm trying to eat, you trying to sleep. If you a dog, then I'm a beast. Go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, misery bots of all ages, back again with another video. This time we're giving you something interesting. This time I'm giving you reasons to choose the Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch. Why you should buy the Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch. But before I get into that, if you like that intro music, definitely check out the Adrian Rockstar SoundCloud in the descriptions below. Let's get into the video. Now, one of the reasons you want to get the Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch is for the screen. Now, if you're going to go with just the LCD model, yeah, that's a 800p screen LCD, but it is a smaller screen. It's a 7-inch screen as opposed to the Nintendo Switch's 7.9-inch screen. So the screen quality is probably going to be very comparable to that of the Nintendo Switch. Now, if you want a Steam Deck with a better screen, you're going to end up having to pay a little bit more and getting one with the OLED screen, which actually has a 7.4-inch screen. OLED though, so that those colors are going to pop, those blacks are going to be deep. All right. Next reason you want to get a Steam Deck over a Nintendo Switch is for the controller support. With a Nintendo Switch, for the most part, you're going to be locked to the controllers of the Nintendo ecosystem, albeit the joysticks or maybe the Nintendo Elite controller, maybe some other compatible third-party controllers may work for the Nintendo Switch. But with the Steam Deck, you can basically use whichever controller you want. You can use a PlayStation controller, you can use an Xbox controller, you can even use a Nintendo controller. You can use the Nintendo Switch Elite controller, if I'm not mistaken on that part. You can use the Steam controller, you can use Hitbox if you're a fighting game enthusiast. You can use mouse and keyboard and more with the Steam Deck. The next reason is the device is actually very thin. Now, the Nintendo Switch 2 is also a thin device, but the Steam Deck is also a very thin device. And the cool thing about the Steam Deck is at the edges of the edge of the controller actually curves to give you better grips. Not only that, there are buttons on the back that you can actually map during the game you're playing to those buttons on the back for better comfort and all that stuff. So yeah, that's definitely something that's a plus for Steam Deck. The other thing for Steam Deck is actually the trackpads, the gyro system, and the HD haptic feedbacks. This definitely is a game changer in just this generation, as most controllers like the PlayStation controller has some sort of haptic feedback, and it just makes you more immersed in the game. Now, on the actual Steam Deck, you don't need like a third-party controller. The Steam Deck itself has haptics on it. It also has that trackpad, which helps for gaming. So certain games you could use the trackpads on there. You can use the gyro for gaming too, like certain shooting games. You can use the gyro to help you aim and stuff like that. And you can also use it just for navigation too. So because remember, the Steam Deck is a PC. So you can use it for just general navigation, picking the game you want to play, searching through the Steam Deck store, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that trackpad, the trackpads are pretty cool. They do help, as well as the fact that because you're on Steam, there are PC specific games that may require some sort of mouse. So if you don't have a mouse attached to it, you can use the trackpads in its stead. So yeah, that's actually really cool. The next thing is the plethora of accessories. The Steam Deck has been out for a while. It's been out for about 3 years now, which is impressive considering that it's able to still run some of the newest games out. For example, the remaster for Oblivion is out. It could be ran on the Steam Deck. Now they haven't verified, but it is it runs a little rough. You still, for the most part, could get 30 frames per second, but you're not really going to get the most stable 30 frames per second. But you can actually get above 30 frames per second, or even unlock 30 frames per second by activating frame gen. So that's one of the benefits to Steam Deck is customization. But the plethora of accessories that it has over this 3-year time is also very impressive. I mean, you can get cases for your Steam Decks. You can get stands for your Steam Decks. You can get cosmetic changes for your Steam Decks. You can literally make your Steam Deck look like a Nintendo Switch. So like it's so much things you can do for the Steam Deck. I mean, there's cameras and stuff for the Steam Deck. There's so much stuff you can get for a Steam Deck. The other reason, the sixth reason why you want to get a Steam Deck over Nintendo Switch is the storage. Man, you can store a lot of games on the Steam Deck. Now, on the Nintendo Switch, it has up to 256 gigs of built-in storage, and I think you can do up to maybe a terabyte of a specific micro SD card. I think it's micro SD Express. But with the Steam Deck, you can get Steam Decks that have up to 1 terabyte of built-in storage with, I believe it's up to 2 terabytes of expandable memories. And that's with just basically any micro SD card, high speed micro SD cards. So like you can even use the micro SD card that you would typically put in a Nintendo Switch. Like you can use that one, and you can use more SD cards that will not actually work on a Switch. So yeah, the expandable storage is definitely a plus. You can also customize it so you can actually get into your Steam Deck and switch out the SSD, the internal expandable storage. You can actually go in there and change that out yourself. Now, whether you can do the same thing on the Steam Deck in the future, I don't know. Maybe people will figure that out. But as of right now, you can go into your Steam Deck and change out your storage and actually upgrade the internal storage to whatever you want. Up to, I think it's 2 terabytes, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's really cool, and it's SSD as well too. So the Steam Deck's dock from Valve itself is also really impressive. I would say it's actually more impressive than the Nintendo Switch's dock. The Steam Deck dock from Valve has an HDMI 2.0 port. It has a display port up to 1.4. It's a display port 1.4, and it has up to three 3.1 USB ports, which is very fast, high-speed USB ports. So the dock itself is actually very impressive. And the Steam Deck via the dock, if you're running it via the HDMI port, you can get up to 4K 60, or you can get up to 1440p 120 frames per second, which is really impressive. And I think that's up there with the Nintendo Switch. Now, what that's up there with the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, what makes it stand apart from the Switch 2 is that via the display port, you can actually get up to 8K 60 frames per second and up to 4K 120 frames per second if you do it via the display port. The Valve's dock also allows for multi-monitor support with FreeSync VRR support too. So like your game, you're not gonna have like any screen tearing or none of that wild stuff. And with the Steam Deck, you can also use third-party docks. You're not tethered to Valve specific docks. So I think that's also like really good. Like the dock situation on the Steam Deck, I think far surpasses that of the Nintendo Switch. Now, the Steam Deck also has a touchscreen. Now, I'm not 100% sure if the Nintendo Switch 2 has its touchscreen. If it doesn't, then that's definitely a feather in the cap of the Steam Deck that it has a touchscreen. So you can literally navigate the Steam Deck via the touchscreen, or just the touchpads, or just the controllers. So it's up to you. Or you can attach a mouse and keyboard and navigate it through that. There's so many different ways to navigate the actual Steam Deck. So the ninth reason, which man, there's so many reasons, dude. The ninth reason is just the games. This is the biggest reason for the Steam Deck. I mean, the library for Steam is massive. It's vast, dude. And you can also purchase Steam games outside of Steam. So you can go to places like Green Man Gaming, CD Keys, and purchase games that you can then put on Steam and on your Steam Deck. You can also buy games on like Epic and stuff like that, and add that to your Steam Deck as well too. So you're not tethered to the Valve store. You're not tethered to Steam store when it comes to gaming. The games on Steam are also cheaper. They're also cheaper. I mean, you're not going to be getting games that are $80 or anything like that, unless you're getting like a deluxe edition or something like that. For the most part, you're getting games anywhere between as low as like $2, $3, $4 to as high as maybe $70 if for just a standard game. And we're talking about AAA game. You're also getting games that are from PlayStation. You're getting PlayStation games. You're getting Xbox games. You're getting PC only games as well, and you can even get Nintendo games via emulation, which is another feather in the cap for Steam Deck. Is that the emulation and Steam Deck is phenomenal. I mean, you can play games from PlayStation 1, 2, 3, base Xbox, older Nintendo games such as Super Nintendo and things of that nature. So, yeah, when it comes to games, the Steam Deck is king right now, man. The Steam Deck is king. So, yeah, that's a feather in the cap. Again, the games are cheaper. You can get it via third party. And for the most part, the games are going to run at least 30 frames per second. Even for some of the newer games, they're running at roughly 30 frames per second. Now, whether that 30 frames per second is a stable 30 frames per second, they they're still working on that part. But you can most games are at least playable on the Steam Deck. Most games are at least playable on the Steam Deck, although the play experience will vary. You do not have to pay online. This is the number 10th one. You do not have to pay online for Steam Deck. So you do not have to pay to play. When it comes to Steam Deck, there is no subscriptions for online or anything to that nature. You buy your game and that's the only money you basically have to spend outside the actual purchase of the Steam Deck. You don't have to pay to play online. There's no subscriptions or nothing like that. And if it's a free game that you get, let's say like a Marvel Rivals, you can just play Marvel Rivals. You can download Marvel Rivals for free on your Steam Deck, and then you can play Marvel Rivals on your Steam Deck. Granted, Marvel Rivals doesn't run the best if you're getting anywhere between 30 to like 50 frames per second. But the point is, you're not paying anything. You literally download it and play it online with your friends against your friends. It also has crossplay. Depending if it's supported, depending if the game is supported. Marvel Rivals is supported in terms of crossplay. But the point is, you're not paying to play online. If I'm not mistaken, with the Nintendo Switch 2, you will need to get the Nintendo subscription, which I think is like $20 a year, maybe $30 a year, something like that, to be able to play games online with your friends, which is unfortunate. You can also tweak the settings of a lot of games to fit your liking. That's the 11th spot. So, like, granted, the Nintendo Switch 2 will have games that are optimized for it, but with the Steam Deck, you can optimize the game yourself. You can basically take a game and run it however you want it to run. If you want it to run like dog doo doo, then yeah, you can do that on the Steam Deck. If you want it to run decently, you can, for the most part, do that on Steam Deck as well. It gives you the option to basically customize your gaming experience, and that's definitely a nice little feather in the cap. Steam Deck has PC functionality as well. So don't forget, like the Steam Deck is basically a portable PC. So you can do things that a PC or a laptop for the most part can do, which is an added benefit because I mean the Nintendo Switch is strictly a gaming console. You can only play games on the Nintendo Switch, whereas the PC, granted, it is primarily a gaming platform. You can do things that you can do on a PC as well. So it definitely gives you that added functionality. So the last thing, but not least, is the Steam Deck is actually cheaper than the Nintendo Switch. Now, we definitely know that the LCD model is cheaper. The base LCD model bought brand new is $400. The Nintendo Switch 2 is $450, assuming that tax and tariffs don't make that price go up. The Steam Deck OLED, I will admit, is more expensive than the Nintendo Switch 2 at about $550, I believe. But because the Steam Deck has actually been out a while, you can actually purchase Steam Decks cheaper via Valve's refurbished certification, their refurbished program. So if you actually go into Valve, assuming that there are some in stock, you can actually get a LCD Steam Deck for as cheap as $279. For under $300, you can get a Steam Deck, assuming that it's available via the refurbished program on Steam. Now, in terms of the OLED, you can actually get a refurbished OLED for as low as $439. It's actually $10 cheaper than that of a brand new Nintendo Switch 2 for the OLED version of the Steam Deck, assuming you can get it via the refurbished program. Now, the crazy thing about the Steam Deck is because the Steam Deck is so good, you don't have a lot of people returning their Steam Deck first and foremost, and you don't have a lot of people reporting issues with their Steam Deck. So hence the unfortunate part about the refurbished program is that a lot of the times those devices are out of stock. A lot of those times the devices are out of stock because people are just not reporting any issues. They're not sending it in to get fixed or anything like that because they're not really having any issues with it, which speaks to the reliability of a Steam Deck and the fact that if you go to Valve's sorry about that. If you go to Valve's Steam page and you go to the refurbished, like 9 out of 10 times, those devices are going to be sold out. They're going to be out of stock because, again, people are not returning their Steam Decks because they're enjoying their Steam Decks and they're not having issues with their Steam Deck. So there's no reason for them to send it in to get fixed or send them in to a point where Valve then has to send them a brand new one. It just speaks to the reliability of the actual Steam Deck. But if you are able to snatch up a Steam Deck, again, you can get one for less than $300, and you can actually get an OLED version for cheaper than a Nintendo Switch 2. Those are the reasons I have as to why you should get a Steam Deck over a Nintendo Switch 2. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and wait and check out my next video, which I will explain why you would want to get a Nintendo Switch 2 over a Steam Deck. Stay tuned, like, and subscribe. And check out the Adrian Rockstar SoundCloud in the descriptions below.
Motivated. Some people let me get them, I know they hate it cause we winning and motivated. Glistening and inundated with swagger. I'm trying to keep with my daughter to hear some bullshit. Not from Chicago, so don't talk to me about bullshit. Niggas in the motherfucking game wanna talk about the swag and the ice and the whips they drive. But a nigga like me getting bread, showing love, so the niggas don't respect my grind. It's going down, chasing the crown. Box up, be one of the illest around, like Justin Rihanna and Kanye. Nigga, I'm running the town. Slow it down, my vocals tight, so you can cut the. If you a dog, I'm Michael V. I take a nigga girl, I don't play fair. I take him to the bedroom, and they stay there. Wanna be mine, I'm gonna climb. Give me mine, running out of time, money on the line. Gotta shine, give it a look out when I try, won't stop. Vision in my mind, rockstar on top. Wait a minute, when a nigga really get it, I'ma go off. I gotta prove it to him. I think I'm MJ.